It was her birthday. I'd been planning it for weeks, maybe longer, without realizing it. I wanted everything to feel effortless for her, to let her know I was paying attention even to the things she didn't say out loud. A lakeside cafe she mentioned in passing during one of our early dates. A specific kind of flower, freesia, that she only liked in pale yellow. I found a florist willing to ship them in on short notice. Dessert from that French bakery she always pointed out but never bought anything from because she said the prices were ridiculous. I even called a few of her closest friends and quietly asked if they'd be free that night, just in case she wanted company. I thought she'd love it. But that morning, as I set down a small plate of toast next to her coffee, she surprised me. I was thinking of skipping the celebration this year, Lena said, her eyes locked on her phone. Maybe just something small at home. Quiet. A couple of work friends might come by, but that's it. She said it casually, like it was no big deal, but something about the way she avoided looking at me felt off. I tried not to let it show. Really? I thought you loved birthdays. I do. I'm tired. I don't have the energy for something big right now. I nodded. Okay. You want me and John to hang out at Mom's tonight then? Would you mind? She asked, too quickly. I just need a little space. Her words weren't unusual by themselves, but her tone made my chest tighten. Still, I didn't push. I'd learned over the years that Lena didn't respond well to probing questions when she was already tense. And honestly, I was used to it, her mood shifts, the unpredictable energy. I told myself it was just how she processed things. Stress, deadlines, anxiety. It didn't mean anything. So I packed a bag for John and told Mom we'd stay the night. John was 11 and routines were important to him, essential really. He's on the autism spectrum and transitions are hard, but he liked being with Grandma. Her house was quiet, predictable, and she knew his bedtime routine better than anyone besides me. We got there around 4. Watched a movie. Ate spaghetti. John built a Lego X-Wing fighter on the living room floor while I scrolled through my phone, trying to act normal. But around 10:30, I felt restless. The bracelet was still in the glove box, a delicate silver chain with 3 tiny charms, a camera, a book, and a small enamel heart in John's favorite blue. It had taken me a week to find a jeweler who could make something custom. I hadn't even written the card yet. My plan was to give it to her when I got home the next morning. But I don't know. Something about the quiet felt wrong. I told Mom I was heading back to the house for a few minutes to drop off her gift. Don't wake her if she's asleep, she said, without looking up from the knitting in her lap. I nodded. The neighborhood was dark when I pulled in. Ours is the kind of place where everyone's in bed by 9, lights off, porch lamps dimmed. But as I turned onto our street, I saw a sleek black Tesla parked just a few feet past our driveway. Its lights were off, but the car was still warm. I could see the faint glow of the dashboard and the rhythmic blink of a phone charging on the console. We don't own a Tesla. No one on our block does. I sat in my truck for a minute, engine off, watching. I didn't recognize the plates. That sick feeling in my gut crept in slowly like water under a door. I told myself it was probably just someone from her office. A friend. Maybe they Ubered here and left their car for the night. Maybe. But I couldn't shake it. I walked up to the house slowly, my footsteps silent on the path. The porch light was on, but dimmed. I used my key and stepped inside as quietly as I could. That's when I noticed it, the cologne. Subtle, but definitely not mine. Sharp and expensive smelling. The kind of scent you notice because it doesn't belong. The hallway was quiet. Our bedroom door was open, lights off. Kitchen, dark. But the living room had a soft glow. Warm, indirect light, like the kind you'd use if you didn't want to call attention to what you were doing. I took a breath and walked in. Lena was on the couch, legs tucked under her, holding a wine glass in both hands. She looked relaxed, too relaxed. The man beside her was angled toward her, elbow on the back of the couch, knees brushing hers. He was younger than me, maybe mid-30s. Expensive shoes. Neat hair. No wedding ring. They weren't touching. Not exactly. But you could feel it, the closeness. The comfort. The heat. Lena's eyes met mine and everything in her face changed. She jerked away from him like she'd been shocked, shifting her body to create space. Ryan, hey, she said, voice high, too bright. What are you doing here? I didn't answer. The guy stood up. Oh. I didn't realize, should I go? Lena put a hand out awkwardly. No, it's fine. Ryan was just. I wasn't expecting him. I looked at the wine glasses. The open bottle. The fact that the throw blanket on her lap was the one we used when we watched movies together. I didn't say anything. I took the box out of my coat pocket and placed it gently on the coffee table between them. Happy birthday, I said. Then I turned and walked out. Lena called after me once, but not loudly. I heard the couch creak as she stood, then silence. No footsteps. No apologies. No explanations. I got in my truck and sat there for a long time before I drove away. I don't know what I was hoping for. I didn't go there to catch her doing something wrong. I went to give her something beautiful. Something thoughtful. Something from the version of me that still believed we were okay. But you don't unsee something like that. You don't misread the kind of closeness or the way her face looked when I walked in. There was no yelling. No slammed doors. Just quiet recognition on her face and mine that something had shifted. That something had broken. And whatever we had before, it didn't live in that room anymore. The next morning, I woke up in the guest room at Mom's, still in yesterday's clothes. John had climbed into bed with me sometime in the early hours, one arm draped across my chest, his breath soft and even. For a few seconds, I forgot. I let myself believe the worst thing in my life was a pile of laundry or missed work emails. But then I blinked up at the ceiling and the memory came rushing in like a freight train. The look on Lena's face. The man on our couch. The wine. The quiet scramble to explain nothing. I got up carefully so I wouldn't wake John and went downstairs to make coffee. Mom was already at the table, reading the paper, her eyes flicking up when she saw me. She didn't ask anything, just pushed the sugar bowl toward me the way she always did. "You're up early," she said gently. I nodded. I didn't have words yet. By the time I was halfway through my coffee, the fog in my brain began to clear, and I started retracing things I should have noticed. Not just last night, but months ago. Maybe longer. It was the little stuff at first. The way Lena started staying later at work, blaming tight deadlines or team meetings that just ran over. The first time she said she had an overnight retreat for her department, she packed nothing but a laptop and a charger. No toothbrush. No change of clothes. When I asked about it, she waved it off. "They're giving us gift bags, everything's provided." At the time, I believed her. Or maybe I wanted to believe her. I was working long hours too, trying to keep the shop afloat, and John needed more of me than ever before. I didn't have the mental bandwidth to track hotel toiletries or calendar gaps. But in hindsight, the pieces start to click. Her phone changed too. Not the model, just the way she handled it. She used to leave it on the counter unlocked while she made dinner or scrolled Pinterest with John. Lately, it was always in her pocket. Screen face down. On silent. Once I walked into the room and caught her turning it over so fast it almost fell. She laughed it off, just checking an email, but the tension in her shoulders didn't match the laugh. Another time, I asked what she wanted to watch that night, and she snapped, "Why are you interrogating me?" I hadn't even raised my voice. I hadn't accused her of anything. I just existed in the same room while she texted furiously, pretending I wasn't there. She made me feel like I was the problem. I started to see it more clearly now, the distance that had crept between us like a fog no one wanted to admit was there. I'd chalked it up to stress, parenting, life. But there had been more than that. There had been withdrawal. Not just from me, but from John too. That realization hit harder than anything. John's days revolve around rhythm. He needs predictability to feel safe, the same cereal, the same bedtime stories, the same shoes placed in the same spot. He used to sit in the kitchen while Lena cooked, rambling about planes and sharks and space elevators. She used to humor him, sometimes even Googling things to feed the conversation. But recently, she'd started brushing him off. "Not now, sweetie. Mommy's tired. Can you please stop repeating that?" He didn't understand, of course. He thought he was doing something wrong. And I tried to compensate. I'd sit with him longer, build more Lego cities, repeat his scripts back until he smiled. But the imbalance was there. Lena was pulling away from both of us. At some point, I stopped asking questions. I was just trying to survive the day-to-day. Trying not to argue. Trying not to rock the boat. But now, standing in my mother's kitchen with a cold mug in my hand, I saw how long I'd been drifting in denial. Later that day, I took John to the park. I didn't tell Lena we were still at Mom's. I didn't tell her anything. She texted me once around noon. "Hey, you okay? Can we talk later?" I didn't reply. Instead, I watched John from the bench as he zipped down the slide over and over, counting each time like it was a mission. "That's 7, Dad. One more and I beat my own record." His joy made something in me ache. I'd spent so much time trying to keep things steady for him, I hadn't realized how unsteady everything else had become. That night, when he was asleep beside me again, I did something I hadn't let myself do in months. I looked through Lena's social media. There wasn't anything obvious. No posts with mysterious captions or tagged photos from unknown restaurants. Lena was too smart for that. But there were patterns, subtle ones. A shift in tone. A lack of mention. Her once frequent posts about John? Gone. Her stories about work stress or funny things I said. Vanished. It was all filtered light and curated nothing. Like she was trying to project an image that didn't include us. And then one photo stood out. It wasn't from her feed. It was from a friend of hers, one of the colleagues she'd mentioned before. They'd gone to a wine bar after work last week. The caption read, "Much-needed decompression with this gem dizzy," and Lena was tagged. The photo was innocent enough, her glass raised mid-toast, eyes half-lidded with a smile I hadn't seen in months. But what caught me was the reflection. In the mirror behind them, just barely visible, was the outline of a man. Same haircut. Same blazer. The one from our living room. I stared at it for a long time, unsure if I felt sick or vindicated. The next morning, I opened the closet to grab a clean shirt and noticed something strange. A pair of shoes I didn't recognize. Men's dress shoes. Size too small to be mine. Tucked in the far corner behind an old duffel bag. That did it. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't being paranoid. There was someone else in our house. In her life. In her mind. And suddenly, all the arguments she'd twisted against me, the defensiveness, the accusations of jealousy, they all played back like a cruel joke. She'd been gaslighting me while setting the stage for something else. Something real. Something I hadn't wanted to admit. Back then, I thought maybe I could confront her. Sit down. Ask calmly. Get the truth. I imagined her crying. Apologizing. Admitting it was a mistake. That it hadn't gone too far. That she'd end it. But that version of things was just another fantasy. Another way I tried to protect the version of Lena I thought I knew. Now I was done fantasizing. I didn't need a confession. I didn't need her to tell me the truth. I just needed to see what was right in front of me. And for the first time in a long time, I stopped doubting myself. 3 days after Lena's birthday, I came home early. That decision wasn't planned. I just couldn't stay at work anymore. I had clients waiting, a half-rebuilt transmission open on the lift, but my hands weren't steady. My focus was gone. I kept looking at the clock, then out the window, then back at my hands like they didn't belong to me. Around 5:50 p.m. I left without telling anyone. I told myself I'd go home, shower, maybe rest before picking up John from Mom's. But that wasn't the real reason. I think I needed to know. I needed to stop guessing, stop obsessing over half-truths and reflections in Instagram stories. I pulled into our neighborhood just after 6. The black Tesla was there again, same spot. Brazen. Parked like it belonged. Like he belonged. That was when it stopped being a question. I turned the engine off but didn't move for a while. Just sat there, my hands gripping the wheel, watching the front of the house through the windshield. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, detachment. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Just clarity. Like my brain had finally done the math, accepted the sum, and now wanted nothing but proof to file under irreversible. The front door was unlocked. That was new. Our home, our sanctuary, the place where John kept his science posters and his color-coded drawers of toy planes, left open. Careless. I stepped inside and was hit with it immediately. Cologne. Not subtle this time. Sharp and overconfident, like it had been freshly sprayed just minutes earlier. The scent settled into the air like an intruder, and suddenly I hated how it touched everything, our furniture, our walls, my lungs. I walked through the hall slowly. The place was quiet, too quiet, like someone had pressed pause on the sound of normal life. The bedroom door was half shut. Not locked. Not hiding anything. Just cracked, like they hadn't even bothered to worry about who might walk in. I pushed it open. There was no one in the room. Just the aftermath. 2 half-full wine glasses on the nightstand. A red blouse of hers draped over the arm of the chair in the corner. The bed unmade, creased in places that didn't align with sleep. A cufflink on the floor. I didn't touch anything. I stood there, taking it all in. The curve of the comforter. The tilt of the wine glasses. The faint sound of the shower running in the hallway bathroom. A flicker of movement in the mirror, just shadows behind the fogged glass. That's when I saw her phone. Left open on the dresser like she'd forgotten who she used to be. I don't know what compelled me to look. Maybe I needed something that would burn the last shred of doubt from my chest. Or maybe I wanted to be wrong one final time. But the screen was already on. A thread of messages lit up like confession. At the top, Marcus. I didn't know his name until that moment. I had to sit down. Her photo was in the thread, taken in our living room, leaning into him, smiling like I hadn't seen her smile in months. One message read, "Wish you could stay longer tonight." Another, "He still thinks I'm working late. I can't keep making up excuses forever." A third, timestamped just hours earlier, "Leave the door unlocked. I want it to feel easy tonight." I stared at that one for a long time. My hands weren't shaking. My breathing didn't change. I was too far past the point of panic. That was the moment I stopped being married in my heart. When you see the truth laid out in someone else's words, when it's not just suspicion or gut instinct or the way someone averts their eyes, but written down, time-stamped, undeniable, it's like a trapdoor opens inside you. And everything falls through. I placed the phone exactly where I found it. Stood up. Walked out of the bedroom and down the hall. I didn't look in the direction of the bathroom. I didn't want to see him. Or her. I walked down the stairs, out the front door, and didn't look back. I didn't even close it. I drove straight to my sister's house. Erin didn't ask questions when I showed up with a duffel bag and John's backpack. She just opened the door, stepped aside, and hugged me when I didn't even realize I needed it. "Stay as long as you need," she said softly. That night, I sat on her porch long after everyone else went to bed. The air was cool, crisp. You'd think the silence would be comforting, but it just made space for thoughts that wouldn't stop coming. I kept replaying every conversation with Lena over the past year. Every time she accused me of being distant. Every time she said I didn't get her anymore. Every time she made me feel like I was the one withdrawing. It had all been about covering her tracks. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't even want her to admit it. What I wanted was clarity. Control. A plan. And now finally I had both. The next day, I took John out for pancakes and bought him a new model jet from the hobby store. He didn't ask why we weren't going home. I think on some level he understood the way only a kid who reads people better than words ever could. Later, while he built the jet in Erin's den, I sat in her office and started looking up family attorneys. I focused on one thing: who had experience with children on the spectrum. Who could make sure the court understood what consistency meant to John. What safe meant. What structure looked like when the world already felt too loud. I found someone. Booked a consultation. Then, for the first time in days, I slept. The next morning, Lena texted again. I saw the door. "Ryan, please. We need to talk." "Where are you?" Then, "I made a mistake. I didn't mean to hurt you." I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I blocked her. Not permanently. Not because I wanted to punish her. But because I needed space. I needed to build something for John and me. Something that didn't depend on half-truths or apologies. Later that night, Erin sat beside me on the couch and asked quietly, "Do you think she regrets it?" I shook my head. "Regret isn't the same as love," I said. "And love isn't supposed to feel like confusion." She nodded. Said nothing. And I realized I didn't need Lena's remorse. I didn't need her to cry or explain or say it wasn't real. I had everything I needed. No more wondering. No more doubts. Just forward. I didn't go back to the house. Not for clothes, not for answers. I didn't even think of retrieving the bracelet I left on the table that night. Whatever meaning it once held had dissolved the moment I saw Lena's phone screen and the man who followed me home without my knowing. I spent the next 2 days with John at Erin's place. He adjusted better than I expected. Erin kept her routine as close to ours as possible: same breakfast, same TV show, same walk around the neighborhood after dinner. John never asked where Lena was. He just looked at me with those wide, quiet eyes and followed my lead. That's the thing about him: he doesn't push, but he feels everything. Every shift in tone, every breath that doesn't quite land right. I couldn't protect him from everything, but I could control this. I could give him peace. On the third morning, Lena showed up. I had just gotten back from a grocery run. Erin was in the backyard with John, helping him set up a folding table for his model planes. When I turned into the driveway, she was standing by the porch in a hoodie and leggings, hair pulled back, no makeup. Her arms were crossed over her stomach like she didn't know what to do with her hands. She looked small. Not the Lena who'd host wine nights or run a department meeting with her phone in one hand and coffee in the other. This version was pale, her eyes puffy, her lips chapped from chewing them raw. "Ryan," she said as I got out of the car. "Please. Can we talk?" I didn't answer right away. I just grabbed the bags from the trunk and walked past her toward the door. She followed me. "Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." I set the groceries down and turned to face her. "John's outside." "I know," she said quickly. "I'm not here to make a scene. Can we please sit? Just for a second." I nodded once, reluctantly, and we sat at Erin's kitchen table. The same place I'd mapped out custody resources 2 nights earlier. She looked around the room like it might swallow her whole. Then she spoke. "I messed up," she said, voice cracking. "I know that's not enough, and I know you don't owe me anything. But I didn't plan for any of this to happen. It wasn't supposed to mean anything." I didn't flinch. "You said that already. In your text." She swallowed hard. "I'm not trying to excuse it. I just want you to understand. Things were falling apart. I felt like you didn't even see me anymore." That line hit me harder than I expected. You think I didn't see you? I said. I saw everything. I saw the exhaustion. The way you pulled away from me. From John. I watched you shut doors and lock your phone and disappear one layer at a time. I saw all of it. She wiped her eyes. I felt like I was drowning. And Marcus, he just showed up at the right moment. I let the silence sit there heavy. She waited for me to ask something, anything. But I didn't. She tried again. I'm not choosing him, she said quickly. I ended it. That night, as soon as I realized you knew. I haven't seen or spoken to him since. I finally met her eyes. It's not about who you're choosing now, Lena. It's about who you chose when you thought I wouldn't find out. That shut her up for a second. I want to fix this, she whispered. I know I can't undo what I did, but maybe we can get help. Therapy. Something. I shook my head. This isn't a marriage anymore. It's a mess. One you made. I'm not spending the next year of my life trying to tape it back together while John watches us bleed. At his name, her face fell. I never meant to hurt him, she said. But she had. Maybe not with her hands or her words, but with her absence. With the way she disengaged from his routines, from his world. I didn't need him to tell me he felt it, I'd seen it. The tension in his shoulders when she brushed him off. The way he'd stopped asking her to play like he was bracing for disappointment. I stood up. I've already spoken to a lawyer. That got her attention. Her mouth opened, then shut again. Ryan, no, wait. Don't do this. We can figure something out. He needs both of us. I agree, I said. But not like this. Not under the same roof, not with the same lies. You had a chance to choose our family. You didn't. She broke then, her breath hitching as the tears came hard. I watched her fold into herself like she was disappearing. I'll leave, she said, barely audible. If that's what you want. It's not about what I want, I said, walking toward the front door. It's about what John needs. And I'm not putting him through any more instability just to spare your guilt. She didn't follow me. She stayed at the table as I walked outside. John waved from the grass, pointing to a model jet with crooked wings. Look, Dad. I used the wrong glue and it still worked. I smiled. That's how real innovation starts, bud. He grinned and went back to tinkering. Erin gave me a glance over the top of her sunglasses but didn't ask anything. She didn't need to. Lena left a few minutes later. She didn't say goodbye. Over the next few days, things moved quickly. She texted to say she'd moved into a rental downtown and would give us space. I didn't reply. My lawyer advised we start the separation filing immediately with temporary custody arrangements while the court reviewed a long-term plan. Lena didn't make it easy. She filed back hard. Claimed she should have primary custody. That my job at the shop kept me too busy. That she could offer more stability in her new apartment. She even requested spousal support. That part almost made me laugh. It was the emotional neglect claim that stung the most. Her lawyer painted a picture of me as distant, overly rigid, and disconnected from the emotional needs of both his wife and child. But she didn't know what I had. I had **TS of the texts. Messages with timestamps showing she invited Marcus over while I was at therapy appointments with John. I had statements from neighbors who'd seen the same car in our driveway more than once. And I had video, a motion-triggered camera by the garage I'd installed after a string of break-ins nearby. It showed Marcus arriving, entering, leaving 2 hours later. My attorney was sharp, calm, direct. She's trying to get ahead of the story, he told me during our prep meeting. Let her talk. We have the evidence. Judges don't care about who cried harder. They care about who showed up for the kid. And I had. Every day. Every routine. Every meltdown. Every schedule change. Every tear on the first day of school. I had the drawings John made of Dad's garage, and the chart from his therapist outlining his progress since staying at Erin's. The court granted joint custody, but John's primary residence would be with me. Lena got 2 weekends a month and 1 weeknight every other week. Drop-offs at school. No overnights during the school week. Everything consistent. Predictable. Exactly what John needed. Lena didn't look at me during the ruling. She clutched a tissue in one hand and nodded robotically when the judge read the order. It wasn't victory I felt. It was relief. I wasn't trying to punish her. I was trying to protect what was left. Our marriage was over, but I wasn't going to let it take John with it. I used to think divorce was a thing people whispered about in coffee shops. Something you heard about from your cousin or saw in a movie. Messy and dramatic. Sure, but distant. Something other people dealt with. I never thought it would show up at my door dressed like paperwork and deadlines and court dates. But it did. And it didn't knock politely. It barged in and turned my life into a negotiation. Lena filed first. I wasn't surprised, not really. I knew she'd come back swinging. But the speed and tone of it, that caught me off guard. It wasn't just a petition for divorce. It was a statement of war. She requested full custody of John, exclusive rights to the house, half of my auto shop's value, and monthly support. The petition claimed I was emotionally unavailable, volatile, and ill-equipped to handle the evolving needs of a neurodivergent child without female supervision. That last part stopped me cold. I sat there in Erin's dining room, the packet spread across the table like a crime scene, and reread the phrasing until the words blurred. It wasn't just that she wanted John. She was implying I wasn't capable of raising him. Me, the one who'd been showing up every day for 11 years. The one who knew how to prep his meals in the exact order, how to switch off the lights before bedtime in the sequence that calmed him. The one who actually stayed. I took a deep breath and called my attorney. He wasn't surprised either. "It's a tactic," he said calmly. "She's trying to overwhelm you. We push back with documentation, routine, evidence. This isn't about who cries more. It's about who shows up." So we got to work. We compiled everything: therapy reports, schedules, behavior logs, a statement from John's school therapist confirming how well he'd adjusted while staying with me. Erin wrote a letter too. So did my mom. And a neighbor, 2 doors down, who'd seen me walk John to school every morning since the split. But the real game changer was the footage. The motion-activated camera mounted above my garage had caught more than just Marcus entering our home during late nights at the office. It had timestamps, license plate captures, even audio of a few late arrivals. Combine that with the screensh *TS from Lena's phone, the ones I'd taken before I left that night, and it painted a picture her legal team couldn't easily scrub away. We weren't out to destroy her. I didn't want that. I just wanted truth. And I wanted John's life to stay steady. At the first court hearing, Lena showed up in a crisp navy suit. Hair down, makeup light. She sat straight, composed. But her eyes darted too quickly when the judge started asking questions. Her attorney spoke confidently, painting her as a nurturing mother trapped in an emotionally barren marriage. She made a mistake, they said. A lapse in judgment born from emotional starvation. They argued she could provide emotional warmth and feminine intuition that I simply could not. My lawyer didn't raise his voice. He didn't poke holes, he sliced gently, precisely. "Your Honor," he said calmly, "this isn't about emotion. It's about consistency, therapy schedules, educational support, and sensory structure. My client has provided that. Our evidence will show he's been the primary caregiver since the child's diagnosis at age 4. He pulled out the reports. One from John's occupational therapist, one from his speech counselor, one from his school aide. All of them said the same thing: John was thriving, and that his father was the reason why. Lena avoided looking at me the entire hearing. I only glanced at her once when the judge asked her directly why she hadn't disclosed her relationship with Marcus on the initial filing. She fumbled, said it wasn't relevant to parenting ability. The judge raised an eyebrow. When your relationship involved bringing a man into the child's primary residence during unsupervised hours without the co-parent's knowledge, it becomes relevant. That shut her down. The judge didn't rule that day, but we left the courthouse knowing where things were heading. Over the next month, things escalated. Lena's texts went from cautious to confrontational. She accused me of turning John against her, claimed I was poisoning him with silence and that he was starting to fear her. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew anything I said could be used against me. Everything had to go through our attorneys. She also stopped showing up to one of her assigned weeknight visits. Twice in a row. No notice. No explanation. John waited by the window, his little backpack on, holding the book he wanted her to read. When she didn't show the second time, he didn't cry. He just placed the book quietly on the coffee table and went to his room. That crushed me more than if he had screamed. I logged every missed visit, every unreturned call. It wasn't revenge. It was record-keeping. I knew better than to rely on memory in a custody fight. 2 weeks later, Lena's lawyer reached out asking to renegotiate. She'd seen the writing on the wall. We met in a private mediation room, a neutral space. No courtroom. No judge. Just our attorneys and us sitting across a wide oak table like we were strangers finalizing a business deal. Lena looked tired. Older, somehow. Like the fight was finally catching up with her. Her lawyer proposed a new agreement, joint custody but primary residence with me. Weekends rotated. 1 holiday per year each. Supervised phone contact. No spousal support. No claim on the business. I agreed. Not because it was fair, but because it was enough. My lawyer leaned over and whispered you could push for sole custody. You'd probably win. I looked at Lena. And I thought about John. No, I said. Let's keep it here. I don't want him to lose a parent. I just want him to be safe. Lena signed the papers. When it was done, we stood awkwardly outside the office. The air was cold, the sky overcast. She lit a cigarette even though she'd quit years ago. I didn't think you'd fight me, she said. I didn't want to, I replied. She nodded. You've changed. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just stopped pretending not to notice when things broke. She exhaled slowly, watching the smoke disappear. Do you hate me? No, I said truthfully. I just don't trust you anymore. That was the last real conversation we had. From then on, it was drop-offs and pickups. Calendar coordination and polite hellos. Nothing more. Nothing less. I moved into a small apartment 3 blocks from John's school. Clean, quiet, easy to manage. I adjusted my hours at the shop so I could do mornings and afternoons. My sister helped when she could. So did Mom. We built a new rhythm. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And it worked. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, linoleum floors, and a view of the elementary school parking lot. But it was quiet. Predictable. And ours. I built routines around John's world. Same breakfast, same route to school, same evening checklist. He began sleeping better. Laughing more. He even started helping customers at the shop sorting tools, handing me wrenches with the precision only he understood. Word spread that we were steady, honest. Business picked up. I'd lost a marriage, but in its place I found something sturdier, a rhythm without fear. A version of life that didn't require pretending. One Thursday, Lena came to pick up John. She looked worn down, eyes tired, voice soft. She lingered like she wanted to say more. I didn't let her. We weren't partners anymore. Just co-parents. She left, and John and I returned to our model jet, piecing it together on the floor in comfortable silence. As he held up the finished plane, grinning, I finally understood. Happiness isn't noise or excitement. It's peace. It's trust. It's knowing you don't have to look over your shoulder anymore. It's building something that lasts even if you had to lose everything first to find it.